Hi, my name's Ash, this is Crack Minis, and today I'm going to be making a bunch of little robots. I work in 28mm scale, and I had this idea, because I've been doing this Robo Rebel faction, if I have one robot that's the same height as a human being, that robot isn't particularly dangerous, but if there's lots of those little robots running around, then they become dangerous. So like fodder for the Robo Rebels. And then I thought, well, they don't have to not be dangerous, do they? Maybe they're mindless. Maybe they're like robot zombies. And then they give me an idea. And that idea is the clankers, which is what I'm going to be building in this video. So check out. Tell me what you think. Thank you. Enjoy. When I started building, I wanted them to all look pretty similar. So what I did was I got myself one of these fidget toys. Now, I was going to use those for a main body part so that I could keep track of, like the size and the shape. So each one has that one unifying feature and then build up from that. Alright, so once I had that main body part sorted out that was going to be the unifier, I needed something else. Something that I could connect the arms and the hands and the legs to, I decided to use beads and these rubber spacers that I found. It was pretty much mix and match after this point, because I didn't know exactly where I was going to go with it. Okay, so let's start building. At first I started with these fidgety, clicky snake thingies, and I cut the bottoms off. I started by snipping them and then immediately switched to sawing them because I broke one. And to be fair, it was a lot easier sawing them than it was trying to cut them with those snips. Although the footage would say otherwise. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm going to be cutting some beads in half so I can use them for the hips. You know, the bits of the leg connect to? The hips. That's the one. The hips. I don't want to say the hips. It's like the bum piece. I needed holes drilling for some armature wire in what would be the actual main body. I used a pin vise to start, but after way too many of them, I remembered I had a Dremel. Yeah. Because I've got that much stuff that I tend to forget what I've got. That sounds like I'm showing off. I'm not showing off. I am disorganised. Very much so. So when it comes to the hip parts where the legs were going, I actually remembered I had a Dremel and I started using it. I'm glad I did, because drilling into beads with a pin vise, I tend to just break them. I don't know whether it's I'm putting too much pressure or what, but yeah, I definitely suggest using a Dremel for this bit if you've got one, or go very slow with the pin vise. Don't push too much. Once all the drilling's done, it's time to join those two pieces together. Two become one. And then we start with the wire. I tried filming myself putting the wire in, I just could not find the hole. Yeah, I heard myself say it as well. So I just filmed them off camera. Phrasing. And then I did the same for the legs. What I should have done with the legs was I should have done a continuous hole and then threaded it through. But I didn't really think about it before I started drilling. Just done it again. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Now it's time to start attaching the arms and legs. Now, because I didn't want them all to look exactly the same as each other, I did mix and match some bits. So for this one I just used wooden beads and then the rubber spacers, then a spacer bead, then a normal bead, then another spacer bead, and then a bunch of other rubber spacer beads, and then that's the end of the arm. But obviously you can mix and match as you like when it comes to those arrangements, so you can have the arms however you want to have them. But as long as the main body and the overall look was similar to each other, basically I wanted them to look like they were from the same factory, just made at different times. So each version's a different version of the same robot. Just like version 1, version 2, version 3. that sort of thing. I wanted them to have like this basic look. What I didn't want for the Robo Rebels was for them to have a class system, but then I realised that they needed a class system. So you'd have like the higher class robots that have thought and are capable of speech, and basically like leaders and followers. And then these guys would be followers, so they can only take basic commands. The AI is basic, that sort of thing. So they follow orders, that's all they do. And if they don't have orders, they go to their basic routines, which are usually kill all the humans or take over this space, and then that's it. Basically, they're like the grunts of the Robo Rebels. So I wanted them to be as simple as I could get them, and also I wanted other people to be able to make them. So that's another thing. I want people to be able to make the things that I make sometimes. Not sometimes, all the time. But sometimes it's not realistic, because what I do is make weird stuff out of random junk. But if I keep them a bit uniform, other people may be able to get the pieces that I've used, and they may be able to build their own. I started by making 5, and then I realised I needed more, and I'd already made loads of the bodies, so I thought, you know what, let's do some more. So I made 10. I made 10 of them. 10 seemed like a good number. That way I'd had 5 melee units and 5 artillery units, and yeah. And then it's time for the EVA foam. EVA foam, crafter's best friend. Most things stick to it, and it sticks to most things. So yeah, I had these like obviously gaps that I needed to fill with the EVA foam, and that made like the main body part. Should I call it a hull? Is it called a hull on Robo? I don't know. Like a carapace. And that's the thing that goes over an insect, doesn't it? I don't know how to describe it. EVA foam to fill the hole in. Make it look boxy. Like letterboxes. Made them look like letterboxes, basically. Wrapping EVA foam over it. I started working on the armour. So for the armour, I wanted it to be as basic as possible. Just the odd plate here, made from EVA foam, random bits of plastic, a few gems. I wanted it to look very cobbled together, like they'd been given the most basic of repairs and sent back out to fight. These are walking rust monsters, basically. Like husks of robots. Not even like fully classed as robots. They're just mindless automatons that do as they're told. So not a lot of effort gets put into repairing them. So, next I want to get to the heads. Actually no, what I want to do is put necks on them. Then I'm going to put the heads on them, then I'm going to put the faces on them. Okay, what do I use? Guns, then faces? I can't remember. All I know is I needed a neck, and then for the head I plopped on a bead. Unnecessary animation, I know. I did try and find the right sound for it, but I just couldn't, because I want a stompy noise, but if you can't have them do the actual stompy stuff, there's no point in having a stompy noise. Yeah. Anyway, next thing. There you go, put the faces on, but not the eyes. Not yet. And now it's time for the weapons. Ignore that wrapper, I was eating a timeout. Now for the weapons I used mock Lego guns, charms, just any random bits of scrap that I could find, basically. I could cobble together and maybe make a decent gun out of. Or just a decent melee weapon, you know? Basically like what I said before, they look like junk. Their weapons are going to look like junk as well. They're just handed stuff, said shoot, or stab, or punch, or beat. And that's it. So their weapons don't have to be fancy, they just have to look cobbled together. And you can do that with anything really. But as I said, I had lots of these mock Lego guns lying around, and loads of these charms. Just see what I could make. And I did 2 charm pistols. I was like, yeah, I'm using them. 2 right. When it came to attaching the weapons, it was pretty easy because I left a little length of wire sticking out the end of the arms. And the fact that they were made of wire themselves, they could just be bent and twisted into the positions I wanted. So that was like the easiest part, was putting the guns in the hands. It was just making sure that they looked right when they were standing. Because I know they're going to look goofy no matter what. But I try really hard when it comes to the stances of the models that I build, so that they look natural. well, as natural as a robot can look, to be fair. For the hands, I didn't really make fingers because I couldn't be bothered. What I did was I stuck little squares of UVA foam to give the idea of hands that I could paint later on. And to be fair, you barely notice that they don't have fingers. One of them I've tried to trick it by slicing the EVA a bit, but it was unnecessary. I could have got away with not putting any fingers on any of them, which I was happy about, because fingers are well odd. And then it's time for some rivets. Okay, so with the rivets, I used them sparingly. Again, like I said, I want them to look cobbled together, so I don't want lots of things looking like they hold them together. I just wanted them to look like they just are, if you get what I mean. So 1 or 2 here and there, just where there are obvious plates. I didn't want to get too fancy. Again, like I said before, I want these to be able to, someone else to be able to make these, and I don't want it to be too challenging that they struggle to do it. Obviously it's challenging because it's crafting and the wire and the beads and making silly little guns and throwing it all together, but if it's too difficult, no one's going to want to do it. Once I got the rivets on, I started on the eyes. Now for the eyes I used slightly larger hemispherical gems. Yeah, a slightly larger hemispherical gems because I wanted them to be different than the actual rivets that are on the model, and also, you know, like to give them a bit more emotion. I say emotion, it's 2 eyes on a plate, you can't really get a lot of emotion out of it, but what emotion you can get from like the head tilting certain ways and up, if they look up, down, you know, like that sort of thing. It expresses it more if the eyes are a little bit larger. And now it's time to get ready to start painting. So I'm going to do a little spinny bit here. Look how many I managed to squeeze on that plate. Loads of it. Well, I'll go a little bit into painting, then I'm going to go into the story. The story's a bit different this time. It's not like Unchained Thought, it's like an actual story. Told from the perspective of someone who comes across the clankers in a desert. So it's a bit different than what I normally say, the things I normally say. Because normally I go into details of what they are and what they've done. But because these are mindless little zombie robots running around causing havoc, I thought, well, I might as well make the story a little bit different. So for the painting, I, again, paint in black, dab on some silver, dab on some orange for rust. Then I started painting the plates. Now for these I didn't go with the green and the red like a normal Robo Rebel. I stuck with blues and yellows. I just wanted to give them their own independent look, so that you could have them as either a part of the Robo Rebels, or they were a part of the Robo Rebels, or they're just a random group that were formed just out of nowhere. Give them their own sort of like independence. Okay, so for this one I've even given the story a title. So it's called The March of the Clankers. And yeah. Are you ready? Chiran pressed himself against the cracked hull of a derelict hauler. His breath shallow, heart hammering in his chest. The sandstorms had stripped away the old transport down to its bones, leaving just enough rusted metal for him to hide behind. He had been scavenging for fuel cells when he heard them. The sound of metal grinding against metal, of stiff joints creaking and unlubricated gears clicking like chattering teeth. Clankers. He peeked through a jagged hole in the crawler's plating. A dozen of them marched through the ruins, moving with a rigid, inhuman rhythm. Once, they had been workers, construction rigs, mining bots, factory loaders. Now they were stripped-down husks, their original plating long replaced with scavenged armour and crude weapons welded onto their frames. Some still bore the remnants of their past lives. One had a corroded company logo across its chest to keep from gasping. The clanker's red eyes flickered violently, its head twitching as if fighting against some unseen force. It turned slightly, scanning the wreckage. It knew something was there. Joran's fingers clenched around his rusted pistol. He had only 2 shots left, not nearly enough to take them all down. The clanker hesitated. His head swiveled away, and it let out a broad burst of static. Then, as if nothing had happened, it resumed its march. Joran stayed frozen for what felt like an eternity, only moving when the sound of metal footsteps faded into the dunes. they were gone. He exhaled shakily. He was lucky. Next time, he might not be. Alright, so that's the story. Please let me know what you think of it in the comments. And if you're new to the channel and you've made it this far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Because you just sat through nearly 20 minutes of me waffling. And if you're already subscribed, obviously, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Oh, also the guy who mentioned the crackle paint, I tried it. Didn't work very well for me. I think it's just because the models are too small. And obviously credits where credits due. I'm going to tag you in this video just because it was a really good idea. And I definitely feel like it'll work on something bigger. Yeah. I had a lot of fun building these. To be fair, I have fun building most stuff, but these were a bit different. I do reply to the comments people leave, and in one of them I put that I don't really plan out my builds. I just make stuff. These I had like in my head for weeks, you know, and I decided how they were going to look way before I built them, and it just made the whole process easier. I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, oh yeah, time for the spinny bit.